Good morning and welcome back, Trinidad, and a special good morning to Tobago, of course, sharing that Christmas spirit with our sister isle, Tobago. So joining us in the Tobago studio, we have Mr. Deon Brebnor, Environmental Officer 2, Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment. Good morning, how are you doing?
Hi, good morning, I'm great, and a special good morning to your viewership and your listenership.
How is Tobago this morning?
Tobago is great, nice and sunny.
All right, so we're talking about the THA waste oil census. What can you tell us about this?
Well, before I start, let me give you some background information, some history of the project. So in the past, the former Department of Natural Resources and the Environment, under the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and the Environment, under the Secretary Godwin Adams and Administrator Denise Williams, would have been doing a project where we would have been collecting waste oil from the different garages around Tobago. Right? So what we would have done, we would have contracted Holly Sanitation and Transport to collect the oil because we would have received numerous complaints about illegal disposal of such. Right? So of course we had to address that challenge, and from that stemmed this project here, the waste oil management system for Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, now just to touch a little bit on that, so what you all went about doing is collecting the waste oil from garages in Tobago. Now, how critical is that issue right now in Tobago?
Oh, it's a very, very critical issue, grave as can be, because the current situation is one where the main receptacle of the oil, which is the Studley Park landfill, and they have serious challenges they're facing there with respect to the temporary storage of the waste oil. Because currently they have 2 tanks there, and there's evidence of leakage. And of course, there's another area that they would have dug to accommodate the waste oil, but it's not appropriate for holding such, material.
All right, so it brings us to the recent story in the newscast where US $475,000 waste oil processing plant has been approved for Tobago. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the Basel Convention Regional Center for Training and Technology Transfer for the Caribbean, headed under Dr. Ahmad Khan and the project executing officer, Ms. Marissa Charles, they have taken on the challenge in collaboration with the THA and, of course, their consultant, Ms. Camille Rupnarine, and the Planning Associates Limited. So we all met in September 7th there, and we would have looked at appropriate technologies to address the challenges that we're facing in Tobago with the waste oil.
Now tell me a little bit about this particular facility and what really is it intended to do?
Well, the intention is to treat with the illegal disposal of the waste oil and to address the current storage area, which is in Studley Park landfill, because most of the oil collected on the island of Tobago goes to the Studley Park landfill. And of course, as I just mentioned, that there are serious challenges there, right, with respect to leakage. Now, what would have occurred is that the THA representatives, not only from my department, but from public health as well, and their engineers, we would have met and we would have identified 3 technologies. One was selected, which was the atomic vac system, which is a basically vacuum distillation, zero waste process plant, right? And it's a pilot project, huh?
Yes.
So it's a demonstration plant that they will do in Tobago, and then hopefully it will ripple out to the region as well. Because the Basel Convention Regional Center, they have responsibility for certain countries in the Caribbean. So what is very important about this plant is that it's tailored towards the volumes of oil produced in Tobago, right? However, what's also good about this plant is that if or when the capacity increases, there's also that space for it to add on to the plant, so you can have that increased capacity to deal with the increased load.
All right, so previously, what were the means of actually disposing of oil? I know some would normally be shipped to Trinidad. Is that accurate?
That's correct, right? So in the past, with that same contractor I mentioned, Holly's Sanitation and Transport, he would collect the oil in Tobago and then ship it down to Trinidad to oil mob, right? And then they would have dealt with the final product there.
So this particular facility, it is geared towards collecting, storage, treatment, and re-refining of waste lubricating.
Correct, Rina. Yes.
Okay. Now, I'd like to know a little bit about some of the challenges, the logistical challenges that you all would have faced in the past in terms of having it shipped, probably even, let's say, cost factors in shipping to Trinidad and some of the other...
Definitely.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about some of those challenges?
And of course, the main challenge would be the sea bridge.
Oh, of course.
Right, yes. So that was also an issue then, as it is now. Right, so we want to get away from having to go head on into those challenges and address the situation and treat with it in Tobago. So the proposed site is at the Cove Eco-Industrial Estate, right? But we still want to put in some interim measures at Studley Park landfill that could still at least do the temporary storage of the material in the interim as well. And of course, the atomic vac plant system is one that is aligned to Tobago's mandate of clean, green, safe, and serene. So it's a green initiative that we need to really, get on board with as soon as possible.
Would you say that this initiative can possibly, or can open up possibilities of, let's say, housing of other kinds of recycling initiatives, perhaps?
Of course. Once you get that start, you lead the way, and then, of course, everything else will fall in place. Yes.
Now, when is construction expected to begin?
We're expecting, hopefully, in 2018, next year. So that's the intended commencement date. Well, year, actually. So we'll see how it goes from there.
And how much money do you think we are actually set out to save with this plant?
Well, that's a good question. And the business model meeting, that is carded for later on this month. So when we get updates on that, I'll be happy to come back on and communicate such.
Now, how long? We'd definitely be waiting to get those results. How long have we been really waiting for a facility of this nature?
Oh, it's been a while, but it's one that is necessary. It's a need, because, for instance, for me, I'm one of these customers. I ask my dealership, okay, here, where are you disposing of this oil?
Yes.
So I don't just buy a vehicle for buying a vehicle's sake. I need to know where X, Y, and Z is going, and, that kind of environmental responsibility,
I am glad you actually brought that up, because the advantages of those who actually practice this illegal activity, I'm sure they're able to charge cheaper. They have cheaper costs for the services that they provide, because there is no cost attached to actually disposing of the oil in the proper way. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the questionnaire done by Dr. David Alexander from UTT and his team, they actually went around and they had a questionnaire. And one of the questions was like, will you be willing to pay for the disposal of, of the waste oil?
Yeah.
And most people, I think everyone said yes. So at least, we have the people out there that's still environmentally conscious, and want to do the right thing. And, we've wanted, and that's also a part of our education drive at the Department of Environment. At least, the Secretary Devines and Administrator Toppin are on board with that approach, where we do our best to attack the consciousness of the human beings, because people are very aware of right and wrong, Even when someone is doing something illegal, illegally, you know, they always tend to do like a little double take or something when they're doing it,
Yes.
you know. So we know what is right and we know what is wrong.
We definitely welcome that educational drive. It should be successful. It should be effective. Do you think it has been so far?
Yes, yes. People, you know, respond to, you know, we are all innately selfish. I always say that, and I love to play on that, right? But in our innate selfishness, we need to remember that the environment, and I always use this line as well, we are a product of our environment, you know, and other people need to understand that. When you mistreat the environment, you know, it's like a circle. You get the returns of what you put out.
All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about trained labor and employment opportunities on this plant. Can you give us some information on that?
That's one of the opportunities coming out from this plant. It's probably going to hire, the figures that we saw, probably about 10 people, which is creating employment. And of course, once the capacity increases, it's going to, you know, accommodate more people in the org structure, right? So it's an opportunity for Tobago on the employment side, and of course, from the whole green initiative side, where, like I said before, we mentioned we promoting the clean, green, safe, and serene. So that's good for tourism as well.
No, that's actually great news. But my question also would be, is one plant sufficient? Can it actually do the job?
Yes. The research that was conducted was geared for the Tobago load, right? But it can be increased. The capacity can be increased, you know. So yes, Werner, it can.
Now, also in terms of the research that you all would have conducted, how many similarly sized plants are there globally, for instance? Do you have that information?
Well, the technology came from India, and it's excellent technology, and one or two other countries have it. I can't bring them to name right now, but it's from India, and it's a zero waste facility, which is also, like I said, good for Tobago and good for the environment.
Do we have any other in the Caribbean?
No,
okay.
No, we don't. So it's the pilot, it's the first in Tobago.
Great.
Right.
Now, how much liters per day can the unit refine?
Well, at the moment, the literature states that it's about 4 to 5 US barrels of oil per day, right? And from the information, from the data collected, Tobago produces approximately 4 to 5 barrels per day, and it was about 250,000 liters for the year. Yeah. And of course, Trinidad produces 3 times more than that.
All right, great. Well, definitely, it was a pleasure chatting with you and, you know, providing us with all this information, and we definitely look forward to this new initiative.
Yes, indeed. Can't wait.
I am sure. Oh, one final question, though. You mentioned that there are 10 people who possibly can be employed. Are they already trained, or is it necessary to have further training?
It will be necessary for them to have further training to fit into the plant. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Deon Brebnor, the Environmental Officer to Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment. Definitely a pleasure chatting with Tobago, as always. Great things always going on our sister island.